best bites forever.
Hey, what's up everyone? In this video I'm making the ooeyest gooeyest carrot cake that you have ever had. If you are new here, welcome, and don't forget to click on that subscribe button so that you can get more delicious recipes. And if you're already one of my BBFs, what's up? I'm glad that you stopped by, and now let's rock it out. I'm going to start off here by combining all of my dry ingredients. So in this bowl I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. To that I'm adding 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, along with a half of a teaspoon of mace, a half of a teaspoon of coriander, cardamom, also a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a teaspoon of ginger. Of course, these are not the traditional spices that go in here, but if you've watched my channel before, you already know that I'm pretty daring with my spices and I like a lot of flavor in my food. I'm also adding in 2 teaspoons of baking powder and a half of a teaspoon of baking soda. I'm going to put those all together and just kind of use my whisk to combine them. Perfect. Now I want to set this over to the side, and I'm going to bust out my KitchenAid. So I'm just going to pull this over here. I have my KitchenAid fitted with the paddle attachment, which is this one, and in here I'm going to put most of my liquids, starting with my 4 eggs. I'm also putting in my extracts. So here I have 1.5 teaspoons of coconut extract, and I have a teaspoon of what would normally be vanilla, but I happen to end up getting this, which is pretty tasty stuff. It's like a mix of vanilla and chocolate, has a really nice flavor to it. And this, by the way, is the type of coconut extract that I use. It's a toasted coconut and it is really delicious. I'm also putting 2 cups of sugar in here. This is organic sugar. And I'm going to go ahead and mix this up for 3 to 4 minutes on medium speed. While this is mixing, I'm going to prepare my pans. To prepare my pan, I'm going to use a little bit of butter on a paper towel, and I'm basically going to smear this all around, paying special attention to the little corners and crevices of my pan. Once I get that done, I'm going to add in some flour, and I just want to kind of move that around inside. Make sure that I cover all the way around. This is going to really help the carrot cake not stick, and I'm making this for Easter, so I don't want to take any chances on my cake sticking, so I'm going to remove the excess flour, and then I'm going to put in some parchment paper. Okay, so my piece of parchment paper is going in. I just want to make sure that I kind of push it down and make sure that it's, you know, laying down flat all the way around. And again, especially on the edges, make sure that it's flat, because if you have any like little openings or bubbles, what can end up happening is the batter can get underneath it, and then it is just like a train wreck to try to undo. So make sure that along the edges here it's really sticking in. I'm doing the same thing to my other pan, and by the way, this is 2 9-inch cake rounds that I'm using here, so I'm going to finish that up. So going back to my KitchenAid here, I just want to go ahead and take a look at what's going on in my bowl. This is 4 minutes later. This is mixed up really nicely. It has some nice air incorporated into it. So now I'm going to add in 1¼ cups of vegetable oil. You can use veggie oil, you can use canola oil, whatever you happen to have in the house. They will both work out the same in this recipe. So now I'm going to go ahead and mix that just a little bit. The next thing I need to add in is my dry ingredients, so I'm going to add these in all at once this time. And remember that once you have your dry ingredients in your bowl, you can definitely overmix your batter. So at this point, I'm only going to use low speed, and I'm only going to mix it up until it is incorporated. So this is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to take my paddle attachment off of there, and of course use my spatula to scrape all of the goodness. And from here on out, I'm going to be mixing everything in by hand. The last thing that I need to do is mix in my goodies here. So I have 2 8-ounce cans of pineapples, and those are well drained. I also have 2 cups of carrots, and my carrots are colored because I happen to have rainbow carrots in my refrigerator. They are pretty much the same as orange carrots, so you can use them interchangeably, no big deal. I also have 1 cup of coconut, and if you would like to, you can toast that coconut, but I did not today. And I seriously considered adding some mango into this to replace part of the pineapple, but in the end I just decided to go ahead and use some pineapple and leave the mango out. But I think I'm definitely going to give that a try in the very near future. So I just need to stir this until it is very well combined, and then it is ready to go into our pans. Of course, when you're baking, the only way to truly get perfectly even layers is to use a scale. So I'm just going to put my pan right on top, and then this one has a tare feature on it. So basically what that means is you can put the pan on top and then take it back to 0. I'm going to kind of eyeball it to start because I'm not 100% sure how much weight I want to have in here. But I'm going to go ahead and start there. Right now this is 1 pound 8.4 ounces. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other pan, and hopefully I did a good guess. So these have about 5 more ounces each in them, and I am putting them into the oven at 350 degrees. So here are my beautiful cakes. They have just come out of the oven. You can notice here the surface is really flat on top. It didn't sink in the middle or on the sides, so this is absolutely beautifully baked here. I'm just going to take a knife and kind of go around the edges and make sure that it's not sticking, which it is not, but I do want to make sure before I try to take it out of here. These took 40 minutes at 350, and I'm going to let them cool for at least 20 minutes before I try to remove them from the pans. And now on to our delicious cream cheese frosting. Here I have 3 8-ounce blocks of cream cheese, and they are softened. I'm adding to that 1.5 sticks of butter. I'm going to go ahead and mix this up until it's well combined. Stop and scrape after about a minute or so that you're not ending up with any chunks of butter or any chunks of cream cheese. We want everything nice and blended together. I'm going to go ahead and mix that for about another minute before I add in some extracts. The first one that I'm adding in is 1 teaspoon of coconut extract, and then I'm adding another 1/2 teaspoon of that extract that I showed you earlier that was the baker's extract, or you can use vanilla. I also added in 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and here I have 1/2 cup of coconut milk going in. So this is the coconut milk that I like to use. It is an unsweetened coconut milk, and it's not a cream, it's a milk. Usually the creams are going to have some added sugars, so that's a big difference in them. Look and make sure that the can you're using says milk. Go ahead and mix that up for about a minute. Again, give it a scrape, give it a little bit more mixing until it starts to look nice and smooth. Once you get there, we're going to go ahead and add in our powdered sugar. I'm going to be adding this in about, I don't know, 1/3 to 1/2 at a time. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just go ahead and add about, like I said, 1/3 to 1/2 of it in. We're going to mix that in, give it a little stir, add the rest of it in, and then mix it until it's nice and creamy. It takes probably, I don't know, like a minute or 2. By the way, this is the next day when I'm making my frosting. I like to let my cake set overnight, and I let it cool completely before I wrap it. And when I wrap them, I double wrap them. So here I am, I'm just taking my cake out of my little wrapping, and I went around again with the knife, just kind of flip it over into my hand, and I'm putting it here onto my cake round. You notice that I did put just a little bit of icing underneath the piece of cardboard. That helps it not slip. In this case, I didn't put it into the refrigerator in between, but the smart move is to put it in the refrigerator for a minute or 2 because it makes that icing underneath harden up, and then your cake won't slide around like mine is doing. So anyway, I went ahead and added some frosting into the middle, probably about 1.5 cups, and I spread it around. Then I've put my second layer here on the top. What I like to do is put a pretty good amount of frosting onto the top, and then just kind of push it around with the back side of my offset spatula, which is what I'm using right here. If you don't have one, they are awesome for icing cakes. So in this case, this does not have to be perfect because it is an ooey gooey cake, so I want it to look ooey gooey. And not only that, but it's a really soft frosting, so you're not going to get those perfect lines that you're going to get with a buttercream. So don't stress over it. Just go ahead and spread your frosting. As it falls off of the top, you're going to spread it around onto the sides. And then once you get all of the sides frosted, we're going to go ahead and put some coconut as a decoration all around the cake. So that's another reason you don't have to worry about perfection here. I'm doing this just by grabbing handfuls of it and kind of tapping it onto the sides. I did toast this coconut on my stovetop. I just did it in a frying pan for like a minute or two on medium heat. I've put this coconut all over the top. Now put it into the fridge and let it set up because the cake is soft, the frosting is super soft. This has to go into the fridge for like probably 2 hours before you even think about serving it. Otherwise, when you cut into it, it is going to be like even ooey or gooier than you were expecting. But this has been in my fridge for just a little bit and you'll see that it is like so amazingly soft and beautiful and yummy. So I'm really excited for you guys to try this. This is seriously my favorite carrot cake recipe. I actually ended up serving this with my Guinness beer recipe. If you haven't had that, check it out. Of course, here is my plate up. Once again, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do some now, and I will see you in the next video. Happy cooking, everyone.
BestBitesForever.com